Thank you, Mayor Carroll, and the local elected officials here. I'm honored to be with you. Texas needs a new governor that will move our state forward. We're tired of the politics of the past. We need somebody who'll embrace the future of our state. We're a diverse state. We're a young state. That should be a source of great pride for us. But too often, we have politicians who run the politics of fear, the wedge issue politics where they give a speech but not a solution, where they know how to start a war but not to end a war, where they want to hold teachers accountable but they do not want to be held accountable for their actions. And I want to be a public servant, somebody who serves each of you. Now look, because we have most of the people here are the people that will be running this community in the future, the students, I'm not going to give a stock political speech. I would like to talk to the students just a second. Who here right now, raise your hand if you're a junior or senior in high school. Would you raise your hand? Okay. We have some sophomores here. Any sophomores here? We have some sophomores. Any freshmen? We have a few freshmen here. Okay, this is audience participation. You and your parents have a lot at stake in who's going to be the governor of our state. During this last governor, Governor Perry, who's in town right now, the price of going to community college or a four-year college has gone up by more than 60%. Right now, there are fewer jobs in our state than there were a year ago, and we're all dealing with a global recession. But you probably know some people who are the age of my son, Will, who's here. Where are you, Will? Somewhere around here and making a telephone call. Or others who they get out of high school, they get out of community college, they get out of college and they can't find jobs. So who's governor of this state who can bring the jobs with the future and to make sure that our schools, our public schools, from pre-K on, all the way through high school, our community colleges and our universities have the money, the resources to have good teachers, to have good classrooms, to have computers and broadband access for every young Texan, to make it so that every young person who graduates and wants to get on with their education can do so without facing a financial barrier that their families cannot afford. This race is about you. Now, many can't vote. If you're a senior or if you're turning 18 and you've been a little, at a lower grade level, you can exercise the right to vote. And a lot of people here may think, well, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter who's elected. Doesn't matter who's elected. They all do the same thing anyway. Well, I want to tell you, nothing could be farther from the truth. There are people who sacrificed a lot for the right to vote. I was at a naturalization ceremony when the parents of a private Esparza came up. They weren't citizens and they accepted their daughter's citizenship because their daughter couldn't, because she had been killed in Iraq at the end of her tour a week early. She fought and she went into the Army because her parents said of the promise of citizenship, and the one thing you get as a citizen that you can't get with any residency status is the right to vote. She wanted to be one of the people in power in this country, and those are called voters and the people who exercise their right to vote. There was a young man, a Sergeant Medrano, who's starting in Pan Am in January, in a few days actually, who came to the breakfast I was in. He had been in Iraq doing 2 tours of duties in Iraq in the military. So he did 2 full tours, and he wanted to come to that breakfast to volunteer in my campaign because he wanted to make sure that we elected people who are competent, who knew what they were doing, and who are trustworthy in positions of responsibility because he understood the consequences when we did not. When I was a kid, I grew up in San Antonio. My parents spent over 70 years teaching in the public schools. And when I was a kid, before I could vote, when I was 14, 15, 16, I organized kids in the west side of San Antonio. In the place where I lived, the majority of the population was Hispanic. Of course, we didn't say Hispanic or Latino back then. We wouldn't have known it. Mexican American, okay? The majority of our population. But we did not have in the neighborhoods in which we had that majority the same streets, drainage, schools that they did enjoy in other parts of the town. But thank goodness there was a Texan who helped make this possible, Lyndon Johnson, who signed a Voting Rights Act, who signed a bill to abolish the poll tax, who signed a civil rights bill. And when I was the age of people here, was out registering voters and organizing others in high school to register voters so that they could vote, so that we could get some basic fairness and representation for people in our country who were Mexican American. I did that. That's where I come from. Now it's your turn. We're passing a baton to the next generation to organize. Do you think that the world that the adults have left is a perfect world? Do you think we don't have problems? Well, I'll tell you, we do have some challenges. But we have a lot of opportunity in this country. It's a great country of opportunity, and we have more now than ever before. And I'm telling you, I want to work for you. I want to be a servant, and I want to work for the future of this state. And if you're any of the adults here who think that our purpose on life should be to leave this earth better than we find it, where we deserve people, you told me, who will just do what's right, who will just do what's right, who won't cut corners to reward a friend because they know that they work for all Texans. If you want somebody who respects the diversity of this state, my wife and I have raised all three of our children to be bilingual because we think that's an asset when people are bilingual. You gotta. And I'll say this. You better master English, because English is the language of commerce all across the world. They're teaching people in English in China, in Russia, and everywhere else. But it should be a source of pride that people are bilingual, because that's an asset in an international economy too. If you want a governor who understands that in his heart and in his mind and in his bones, support me. Thank you very much for having me.